Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, I have some Deoxys defense gameplay. Deoxys used to be such a common pick in the Open Grey League, but ever since Annihilate kind of took over as the main counter user, it has dropped off quite a bit. Deoxys is the king of neutral play, at least it used to be. You can Psycho Boost things, you can swap out, clear debuffs, and it's a really fun Pokemon to use if you have the right team. So let's take a look at the battles and see what Deoxys can do in the current season. Alright, so let's get into the battles here. We're going to see that we have our Deoxys lead into Annihilate. So we're just talking about this guy. This new monkey here is the best counter user in the meta right now. We have Psycho Boost, though, that can hit it for super effective damage. We can see our whole team is Deoxys Defense, Lickitung, and then Mandibuzz. So we can try our very best to chip this thing down, use our Lickitung to sponge energy, hopefully, and then maybe use our Mandibuzz to deal with this Annihilate in the back. They make such a smart play, though. They store up about 100 energy on their Annihilate. I think 14 counters worth, so they're almost at 100 right now. That's going to be a lot of energy to try to deal with in the end game if we can't get switch advantage and get our Mandibuzz to soak all that energy later. Bastiodon does come in. This isn't looking great, right? We see that we have the Annihilate lead, and then the Bastiodon here. It's very likely going to be the Jason team with Dugong as the third. My team has neutral play into it, but man, it's going to be hard if I can't get switch advantage, because Dugong against our Mandibuzz is going to be very hard to deal with. I was intentionally not throwing that Power Whip. I want to have as much health on this Bastiodon as possible to farm down with my Deoxys later on. We're going to just let all that energy go to waste, because I wouldn't really knock it out anyway, right? I'd rather get the energy from this matchup and hopefully have some play in the back. I know that some Bast users are smart. They will swap out here. They'll save their Bastiodon, and this is such an awkward situation. They have so much energy. A Night Slash comes through. We're going to swap to our Mandibuzz to try to absorb the energy here, and if it is that Dugong in the back, we still have some Deoxys left over, but we're going to be chipped down very low on both our Mandibuzz and our Deoxys, and that Bastiodon is still a thing. This game is going to be a very tricky match to win if we are able to overcome, the Annihilate bleed, especially with how much energy they have. Shadow Ball is going to come through. It is resisted, but after all this counter damage and after the Night Slash damage we have, we're almost in the red here with our Mandibuzz. This is very rough. We're going to just have to hope that our Mandibuzz up so much energy is going to have some play in the back. Aerial Ace should knock them out unless they decide to invest a shield here, but fortunately they don't, and there is the Dugong. We're going to get a bit of chip damage with this Dark Pulse. I know that that Bastiodon is still alive, but my Deoxys should have some play into both of those. We're going to have to take a debuff here, which is going to suck, because I don't think the Thunderbolt after the debuff will be able to knock them out here. And I also know that I won't be able to get to the next Thunderbolt before the next Icy Wind. Fortunately, though, they swap into Bastiodon here, probably thinking that after that debuff, they'd be able to have a decent matchup here, but I can counter them all the way down, so I can do one counter, throw the Thunderbolt, so I throw on good timing. I know I'm at 100, but I'd rather just get that counter damage anyway. Then we can do two more counters. As long as we survive this next Ice Shard, we should be able to get this Thunderbolt off. We do. We are debuffed. This probably still doesn't knock out, but I know this Dugong is one Ice Shard off of their next move. If I can snarl them down here, we are able to take the game with our Mandibuzz into the Jason team. A very tricky lineup to beat, but somehow we were able to overcome it. Alright, next matchup, we're going to see a Toxapex lead. So this is kind of awkward. Toxapex generally is a very strong anti-fighter, and Deoxys does have a lot of neutral play here, but not as much as you might like, saying you have no fast move pressure. You have super effective charge moves, but that's all you have in this matchup, so we're going to try our best to chip this thing down, use our Lickitung here. I honestly should have probably Psycho Boost and dipped. I don't really know why Thunderbolt didn't dip. I think I swapped to Lickitung here as a last-second play, just to try to bait something out. Deoxys is a very neutral Pokemon in general, but it doesn't have a great time in some of these more fast move pressure oriented matchups. So the Deoxys is going to have to deal with this Dragonair when it inevitably takes out our Lickitung. I got a lot of health onto it. If we can knock this out in 3 counters, then I won't take a Body Slam, but I'm pretty sure this Dragonair should be able to survive, which is kind of annoying. I wish I wouldn't take this damage, but I think that I'm going to take a Body Slam plus a little bit of Dragon Breath damage here. And yeah, it's an unfortunate situation, but we have some play here still. That Toxapex did take a lot of chip damage so far. We have our Mandibuzz as well, which hopefully is going to be good into the back line. We'll just have to see what their third Pokemon is. And it is going to be a Sableye, a Shadow Sableye. That our Mandibuzz does like to see this, but our Deoxys is so low at this point, our Mandibuzz is going to have to try to carry us through the rest of this game here. Our Mandibuzz will shield the Power Gem. Shadow Sableye could have Power Gem, but they do bait us. Power Gem would basically do, I think, like 60 or 70% of our health. Probably the most hard-hitting move left in the game. This Toxapex as well, it's getting close to another move. I could overfarm here, but if I overfarm too much, then I can let a Sludge Wave land. Maybe that Sableye could just go straight for foul plays against me to knock me out. I know that my Deoxys still has energy on it. I could reach a Thunderbolt. We just need to get both of these shields, get this thing whittled down into a range where our Mandibuzz could hopefully take both shields, and then our Deoxys can Thunderbolt it to maybe take the game. We just have to hope that we don't get baited too much here, and the Power Gem does come through. We are able to properly shield it this time, and if this Sableye can overfarm perfectly, then we're in a bad spot. If not, though, I think that we can take the game with our Deoxys defense into that Shadow Sableye in the back. Next Dark Pulse is going to come through. If they no-shield this, they're going to basically get knocked out, so they are forced to shield, and it just depends how much energy can they overfarm here. Very nice counting by them. I had the Aerial Ace, and they throw right now. Are they 3 Shadow Claws off of their next foul play? Looks like they're not. We get the Thunderbolt off. We can take out this Shadow Sableye with our Psychic type. You love to see it. Shadow Sableye is such a fun pick in the Open Great League, but we're able to just overcome it with our 2 anti-Ghost types in the back. Alright, Deoxys defense is going to lead off this time into a Shadow Whiscash, a very neutral lead. I wouldn't really say it's good one way or another, but if the Whiscash does end up shielding your first Psycho Boost, then this matchup does get pretty bad, so I'm going to opt here to just throw the Psycho Boost and swap out. I have a lot of neutral play into this Pokemon, so if I can get a shield early, then I'm going to be in a pretty good spot, I think. And we're going to try to absorb energy here, just use our Lickitung as a way to neutralize this Whiscash as much as possible. Scald comes through, are we going to see a debuff? Luckily not, and they're going to swap into a Mantine. Mantine is a bit of a tricky option for our whole team. We do have Thunderbolt on Deoxys, but it's really just going to be a lot of neutral play that's going to be able to take this thing out. The Body Slam is going to land. It's really going to come down to as well. Are they going to try to throw the Water Pulse and farm me down, or are they going to throw the Aerial Ace and try to do 2 back-to-back here? They go for the Aerial Ace. We can survive it. We can also get to the Power Whip here, which will put this Mantine much lower. I know I would not be allowed to get to 2 Body Slams. They wouldn't let that happen. So I might as well go for the harder hitting move, make it so it's an easier fast move farm down with my backline. And I could shield this. I could let it go. It depends on how much I want switch here. I'm going to shield it up, though, because I know my Lickitung should be able to lick it down and then get a Body Slam against whatever comes in here. Body Slam chip against that Whiscash would probably put it into Psycho Boost range, or if it's just a third Pokemon that comes in, we get to see their entire lineup before we have to show theirs. Alright, so we actually get a move coming through here. I wanted to force energy out of this Whiscash. I could have reached for that Power Whip, but we instead choose to just force them to throw energy, so they're energy dry now. We have our Deoxys with a decent amount of health. We have our Mandibuzz that's at full ill. Easily take this Scald, and hopefully no debuff. Once again, no debuff there, and there it is. It's a Dugong in the back, so very nice thing that we got switch advantage this game. If we wouldn't have shielded our Lickitung, we probably would have lost this matchup. It would have been a Whiscash against our Deoxys, which isn't that bad, but then it would be that Dugong against our Mandibuzz, which would be able to leverage a huge advantage into the end game, and we probably wouldn't have won this game without our Lickitung safe swap doing what it was able to do. First move is going to get shielded. One awkward thing about this is Deoxys is pretty slow to getting to charge moves, right? Especially if you're going for the Thunderbolt. They'll be able to debuff me twice before I'm able to get a single move off, which means that the Thunderbolt probably won't knock them out. We'll have to do our very best here to chip them down with Deoxys, and then maybe finish them off with our Mandibuzz if we want to be able to take the win. Thunderbolt comes through. Yeah, that does nothing. That doesn't even look super effective at that point. We have Psycho Boost. We can throw it. They make a nice catch, but the thing is our Mandibuzz is still so healthy, right? We're probably still outside of range where an Icy Wind would knock us out. As long as we take out this Whiscash before we get scalded, we can easily absorb an Icy Wind and then throw a Dark Pulse of our own to take the win. Dugong's going to come back in. We have it move almost loaded, but they end up top lefting. They see the writing on the wall, and we can take the win in that match. Deoxys defense in this next game is going to be leading into the Goodra lead. A very neutral lead, but a decent Pokemon for our team to see nonetheless. It can have Thunder Punch, which would be super effective against our Mandibuzz, but it's non-stab, and most of the damage from charge moves doesn't really do much from Goodra anyway, so I'm fine just kind of chipping and dipping. We get an early shield. That's one of the best things about Deoxys defense. If you're in neutral matchups, a lot of the time people opt to shield your first Psycho Boost because they really want to keep health. Psycho Boost is a very strong move. It's basically the exact same move as Leaf Blade, except you actually have obviously the debuff on your own attack stat, just to kind of balance it out a little bit. Deoxys defense is a very bulky Pokemon, so it kind of reins it in a little bit by having that debuff. Aqua Tail coming through. Lickitung can easily absorb that here, and we see a Typhlosion come in. This isn't a Shadow Typhlosion, it's just a regular, so they can probably survive my Body Slam pretty easily. We're going to throw it anyway, try to get a shield from this, or just a lot of chip damage if we can. Looks like they let it through. Non-Shadow Typhlosion actually does have a little bit of bulk to it. If I could have got that Body Slam off, I would have been in a much better spot here. I know they can get to 2 Blast Burns. I might just end up double shielding here. Because even if they bait, right, I don't really think that bait's worth it because I could have called that and then you only get to 2 moves either way, right? You'd always get to 2 Blast Burns, so you might as well just go for 2 Blast Burns. We'll shield up this move. It actually is one for once. We get the counter down, and we have a lot of energy left over on our Deoxys. That Goodra is still alive, and we haven't even seen the third yet. It depends on what that third is to see how much play we have in this game. And here it is, a Water Gun Lantern. Not the best situation. We have a Mandibuzz in the back that doesn't really want to take electric type damage. But we have a lot of play because it's not running Spark, so it's only going to be that charge move pressure that it's going to have against us. They give us a free sneak there. They were probably expecting me to Psycho Boost on CMP. Luckily, I didn't. We get the Thunderbolt coming through. We do survive it, and they make a nice catch here on Goodra. At this point, it's honestly fine by me, though. This Gudra is going to be knocked out, and we've chipped down this Lantern into a range where I think I can probably deal with it using Dark Pulse on my Mandibuzz. They need to get to 2 Thunderbolts to knock me out. Thunderbolt's not going to do all that much damage, all things considered here, right? They probably can't knock me out with a Surf. So if I just go for the Dark Pulse here, I should be able to win. Our opponent's only win condition is that they call an Aerial Ace bait. They end up no-shielding because, that is their win con, right? But we're able to take the win. We snarl down the Electric type, and Mandibuzz proving why it's not scared of that Lantern. Alright, Deoxys Defense into a fellow Deoxys Defense user. Honestly, you love to see it. Deoxys Defense is a very rare Pokemon to see, so seeing a fellow, man of culture here, love to see it. We're just going to go straight for Thunderbolt in this matchup. It's always going to come down to CMP, I believe, in the zeros. I don't think you ever two-shot plus the fast move pressure before you get to that next Psycho Boost. So it's really going to be dependent on how we both want to play this matchup out to see just how it goes. Deoxys is a very flexible Pokemon as well, so it's kind of hard to read what the backline is going to be just based off this lead matchup here. It looks like they do win CMP, so now we know if it is going to come down to that Psycho Boost in the endgame, they would likely be able to take out this lead matchup and to win Switch advantage. My move is going to come through. They end up shielding it, though, so because they do that, I swap to my Lickitung, and we bait out the Wigglytuff. We absolutely had to bait this out. Our Mandibuzz has almost no play in this. We're kind of ABB to Wigglytuff. Honestly, we don't even have a strong answer to Wigglytuff in the first place. The Lickitung up energy and up shield is probably one of the best spots for me to be against a Wigglytuff like this. Body Slam number 2 is going to come through. We haven't been debuffed yet, so we've actually done a decent amount of damage here. If they go for the Disarming Voice, we probably still survive at this range as well, and we can get another non-debuffed Body Slam into this Wigglytuff. Alright, they're going to Disarming Voice to try to snipe down our Lickitung before we get this move off, but luckily we were able to get on CMP. We survive on 1 HP because my Lickitung is very, very bulky, and now we just need to hope that our Mandibuzz can sweep the endgame. They swap to another Psychic, and this is not a Deoxys coming through. They were ABA Psychic. It was a Hypno on the back. Mandibuzz is a huge core breaker once that the Wigglytuff, rather, is gone, and we were able to take the win in that game. Deoxys Defense into Skarmory. This matchup you might expect would be a good matchup here for Deoxys. You have a lot of fast move and charge move pressure, but Skarmory in the 2 shield can actually just outpace you to the charge moves, and it gets a little bit awkward. Our opponent here, though, opts instead of going for that to go for a Brave Bird before we can throw a Thunderbolt, and now our Deoxys is dangerously low. We have a lot of play into Skarmory, but if our Deoxys is gone, then we're in a little bit of a tight spot with trying to one-shot that thing, so we want to keep a little bit of health left over, and we have a lot of energy as well. Shadow Swampert did come in. This is a very rare Pokemon to see in this meta. It takes a lot of damage from Lick, a lot of damage from Body Slam. It's a very similar stat product to Shadow Feraligatr, so I can just go straight Body Slam once it's this low to try to knock it out. We'll be able to build up to basically 2 moves here. If they want to throw their next Hydro, they definitely can, but then they're going to be down shields, down energy. They're going to be in a very bad spot. They actually don't even throw it at all, so now they're down 2 shields, and my Lickitung here is able to keep switch advantage in our favor. We still have that Thunderbolt loaded on our Deoxys. We want to prevent a catch from happening, so I need to make sure that we see that stealing come through. We make sure they are in the middle of the animation before we throw this Thunderbolt, so a Mudboy, if they have a second one, doesn't end up catching it. We get a ton of damage onto them, and the third Pokemon is a Venusaur. Venusaur has been much more common recently, probably because the first Legend player in the world used it to get to Legend. But Venusaur is not a match for our Mandibuzz. We were able to take the game. And in this next match, we're going to see the non-Shadow Gligar. It seems like the common consensus nowadays that the Shadow Gligar is the way to go. So seeing a non-Shadow Gligar is very interesting. It's not super common here, but we're still just going to Psycho Boost and dip, because I know that I have a lot of neutral play. I can take basically half of their health in the lead matchup before they're even able to get off a dig against me. And we bait out the Charjabug. I haven't really mentioned this yet, but our team is incredibly weak to this Pokemon. Charjabug has a very strong matchup here against our Deoxys and our Mandibuzz, so seeing it on our Lickitung is fantastic. They're back-to-back moves here, so I'm going to make a very risky play. I throw that Body Slam on CMP. If I didn't, they'd be able to get to 2 X Scissors before I could get the second Body Slam off. By throwing on a potential alignment against a Fortune move, we're able to get this Body Slam off. A very high-risk, high-reward play. Now this Charjabug has been chipped down into a range where our Mandibuzz, our Deoxys, it's not going to be that big of an issue here. We're going to farm this down with Deoxys. If they get off another move, that's fine, but it actually looks like we get the full counter down. These counters are absolutely chunking this bug type, even though they do technically resist our damage. We have a lot of energy here still. We can try to do our best to chip it down with our Deoxys, and Deoxys is pretty tanky, right? This is a non-Shadow Pokemon. We'll just tank this Aerial Ace and see how they want to play it out. Psycho Boost will almost knock them out from this range. It won't quite knock them out, but it'll put them into a range where fast move pressure should be able to knock them out in the endgame. And they swap into a Water Gun Lantern. Yet another Water Gun Lantern in the endgame. A bit of an awkward situation. I need to make these shield calls accurately here. I need to make sure that I don't shield Surfs and then that I shield Thunderbolts, or else this thing is going to have a lot of play into me. I shield the first move, and of course it's a Surf. I don't shield the proper move here, but I'm still in a decent spot, I think. I have so much energy generation here with my Mandibuzz. I can still spam out Dark Pulses. I'll still survive a Thunderbolt as well, and we also have quite a bit of energy left over on our Deoxys, so even though this is a bit of a tricky matchup, I think there is still a lot of play for us here. Dark Pulse lands, it puts them below half health at this point. So this is going to be Psycho Boost range, or potentially Dark Pulse plus counter damage range. So we'll no-shield this next move, keep a shield for our Deoxys, who has so much energy right now. Great catch by them. With that said, our Deoxys has so much energy, I think we can still take this game. We'll try to throw the Thunderbolt. This is an interesting play, right? You can throw the Thunderbolt here. It's a much more expensive move. You just don't want to debuff your attack. That's why I go for it first here. And I'm going to try to do as many counters as I can before we're going to get Water Gun down to make sure that we don't have debuff damage against this Lantern. We're going to get the Psycho Boost off. Is it enough to knock out? It just barely is, and we can take the game against the Lantern in the back. Mandibuzz, yet again, proving that electric types aren't that big of a problem, right? An ABB electric team, we were able to take that out, no problem. Alright, regular Whiscash lead. I guess today is the day of the regular Pokemon. No shadows on these Whiscashes or these Glygars. You normally see the shadows here, so it's an interesting matchup to see. They still end up shielding, though, which is amazing for me. That Psycho Boost wouldn't have even put them down to half health, and now I have a potential to one-shot them with my Power Whip here from my Lickitung. Scald comes through. Non-shadow Whiscash is very little damage there, so nothing too scary, but they do come in with a Skarmory. Skarmory is a Steel type that'll be able to absorb all of the energy from my Lickitung, but we have a lot of fast move pressure because Lick, even though it's not a great move, it is able to do 2 damage per turn here against this Skarmory. It's able to chip it down because Skarmory is a much more defense-weighted Pokemon than it is an HP-weighted Pokemon, so 2 damage every Lick is actually adding up quite a bit here. We might still survive this Sky Attack. It depends on how good the Skarmory is. If they have a bit of attack, we probably wouldn't. But luckily, our Lickitung, once again, very bulky. We can get this next Body Slam off, and hopefully put it into a range where we can farm it down pretty easily with our Deoxys. We intentionally don't do licks here to give ourselves more farm on our Deoxys. We didn't want to chip down that Skarmory too much more so that we can have more energy on our Deoxys against whatever comes in. I'm assuming that Whiscash is probably what we're going to see, but we'll just have to see what our opponent chooses to do here. We see that Whiscash does come back in, Psycho Boost will come through. Probably put it into range where our Mandibuzz can deal with it with a single Dark Pulse plus Fast Move Pressure as long as we're not debuffed. And it's going to be a guessing game. What is in the back? It is apparently a Tentacruel. I've seen a couple of these recently. It's an interesting pick. It's an interesting core breaker as well. It can have a lot of play into like the Water Gun Lantern and Wigglytuff duo, which is I think a lot of the reason we're seeing it here. I know I survive a move. There's no reason for me to ever shield this, and it could also be an Acid Spray bait, which it turns out it actually is. If I would have shielded that, the next Scald probably would just knock us out. So very critical no shield by me. Just see how our opponent wants to play this out. Are they going to start shielding? They don't shield yet. So now they're going to have to start investing shields on Aerial Ace if they want to shield their Tentacruel here, which is a much less efficient shield to use. Yeah, they end up shielding this, and this is a little bit of an awkward endgame matchup here because this thing does have a lot of energy. We're defense dropped, and that Whiscash also has a lot of energy left over on it. Luckily, we are defense dropped, but that's still not going to be enough for this Skull to knock us out here. We can survive it just barely. We are attack dropped as well, so this Dark Pulse probably wouldn't knock them out. I'm fine with them investing even more energy in this matchup, probably just a Mud Bomb to knock us out, but we can take the move pretty comfortably there. Come in with our Deoxys, build up enough energy so that we can get to a Psycho Boost both on this Whiscash and then against that Tentacruel later on. As long as we overfarm it just a little bit here, we should be able to easily outpace that Tentacruel to a move, Psycho Boost this Whiscash, then Psycho Boost their next Pokemon and take the win in this game. If that Tentacruel gets to a Scald, you know, we're going to lose this matchup, but we get to the Psycho Boost. It's going to be more than enough. Even though we're debuffed, obviously, this Tentacruel is very, very low. Psycho Boost is going to knock out, and we can take the win here with our Deoxys defense. Very fun team, but Deoxys is just so much more flexible than a lot of those Pokemon. Alright, speaking of interesting matchups here, though, we have the Skarmory into Deoxys lead. This isn't the favorite lead of mine. You know, I know that there is a lot of play for our Deoxys, but, you know, we won't be able to outpace them to these Thunderbolts here, which is really the tricky part. First Thunderbolt, are they going to shield it? Obviously, they probably are, right? And how are they going to do it? Are they going to Brave Bird us like the last trainer? We would survive it still. Or are they going to Sky Attack and try to play out the long game here? Looks like it's just a Sky Attack coming through. They have another Sky Attack loaded, but they actually attempt to make a catch on my Thunderbolt. I knew I'd lose CMP to that Skarmory, so there wasn't really any incentive for me to throw that Thunderbolt yet anyway. And so we'll just instead be patient here, come in with our Lickitung here into the Whiscash, and try to go for a Power Whip here before they can get to too many more moves. Are they going to go down 2 shields already? If they are, that's going to be a massive advantage for me in the endgame, and it looks like they actually do. A little bit of lag here from their side. I stopped tapping a little bit because I want this game to be fair, right? I don't want to take too much of an advantage over my opponent. So I'm also going to make a play here where I don't throw the Power Whip right when I get it, because I know that I shouldn't have this move before they get their move. So I'll still invest a shield. I'll give them... I'll try my best to make this a fair game. Sometimes the game does lag out, but I use Go Battle League as practice, so I don't want to take advantage of lag if I can help it. Skarmory does come back in. It tries to snipe us down here with our Lickitung, but we have our Deoxys still alive with that Thunderbolt loaded. We can basically knock them out with this. It might not quite do it, but we can still counter them down. It looks like that is enough here to knock out the Skarmory. We have a bit of energy left over. If that Whiscash comes back in, we can probably Psycho Boost it here pretty easily, and then hope that the backline isn't, you know, some sort of electric type, no, like a Lantern or Charge Bug that we're going to have to deal with. We'll just have to see what they end up doing. They do throw a charge move here to knock out our Deoxys, but that's all fine with me because now it's not going to have as much energy for Mandibuzz in the back. It's really going to come down to what is their third Pokemon here. They do reach a Scald. This is unfortunate, but I think our Mandibuzz, with so much energy, and our Lickitung that still has a Power Whip loaded, should have a favorable matchup against most of the meta. We do get attack dropped here, which could come into play depending on how much energy our Lickitung has, because now we're probably not going to knock them out with an Aerial Ace plus a Power Whip, but our Lickitung has so much energy, and our Mandibuzz is still decently healthy. We could survive an Icy Wind on that if we really had to here. We're going to go for the Body Slam, take the knockout here against the Poliwrath with our normal type, and this should be a good game. The Lickitung is going to be able to knock out this Pokemon. The Whiscash comes back in, and we're able to knock it out here. All right, next matchup, Deoxys defense into the Charjabug lead. All right, we were talking about this at the start of the day. This is one of the trickiest Pokemon here to see with this team, but we still have a lot of neutral play. We can Psycho Boost this, take out about 50% of their HP, then our Mandibuzz in the back should supposedly, you know, be able to sponge energy, hopefully get a Dark Pulse off to knock them out. They're actually staying in this matchup as well and throwing energy against our Lickitung, which is absolutely critical. If they swapped out with like 100 energy, I think that would probably make the game unwinnable. Fortunately, though, they don't, and they actually bring in an Azumarill here. I kind of wonder, like, why would he bring an Azu of all things? This thing doesn't resist my energy. I have a lot of energy to go. And we can no-shield and Ice Beam, so a lot of interesting plays happening right now. The only tricky thing is I've seen a lot of ABA electric lineups, right? Where there's a Charjabug and then a Lantern in the back. If that's the case, my Mandibuzz has very little play, even though our Lickitung has quite a bit. I'm going to throw this Power Whip. I hope it's enough to knock out, but I think they might survive on 1 HP here, which they actually do. And this is probably the worst case scenario. If I knew they'd survive, I would have probably undercharged that purposely to get a huge counter down with our Deoxys. Instead, we only get 1 counter of advantage coming out of this matchup, which makes it a very tricky matchup to try to deal with. Charjabug is going to come through. It's going to throw a move as well against our Deoxys. It's going to do a lot, but we're going to survive it. We can Psycho Boost this to try our best here to chip it down as much as possible. This might knock it out. It might put them in the red. They do end up shielding, though, so we still have a little bit of play here. And yeah, it's ABA Electric. Mandibuzz does have energy lead, but that Charjabug is still alive, and we have to deal with what's in front of us right now. Again, just like earlier today, we have to make the proper calls on the Surfs and on the Thunderbolts. If we can no-shield a Surf, that's absolutely critical. If we shield the Thunderbolts, that's equally critical here. We can see that the Surf is, obviously, we get baited. It's a tricky call to make. I probably should no-shield these first moves when I have 2 shields on my Mandibuzz, but I get scared sometimes. I know it's not the best play, but we'll still just double shield because I know Thunderbolt will still do more damage than a Discharge. Discharge is not a great move, so shielding up these moves here will be very helpful. I'm going to actually make a bit of a misplay in my opinion. I feel like Dark Pulse is always the play here because they know they can probably just invest into their Charjabug to win this game, but I go for the improper play there. I go for the Aerial Ace. Their Lantern is still alive a little bit. We're going to try our best to finish off this game. Maybe make a catch. Yeah, we do make the catch here. So now there's a chance if we can get to a move against this Charjabug before they knock out our Mandibuzz, and if we can snarl down their Lantern, we should be able to take this matchup here. We get the Aerial Ace. Mandibuzz is so spammy, we can get to this move before they get to theirs. It's going to come down to this. Are they going to get a move before we can snarl them down? It looks like they are not. We get the snarl down. We knock out the 2 electric types with our Mandibuzz, and we can take the win on one of the worst matchups imaginable with this team. All right, well, that was the final match of the day. We can see how comfortable Deoxys' defense is, even into some of these more tricky matchups, although it is still a bit of a tough Pokemon to use in this meta right now. Flexibility is the name of the game when it comes to Deoxys defense, and we're in a meta where, honestly, flexibility is not really rewarded right now. A lot of games, the second you give up switch advantage, you just kind of lose, right? And Deoxys defense, it loves Psycho Boosting and swapping out, so it can be a little bit tricky to use in this meta, but if you use it right, and if you know how to use it, it's such a strong Pokemon, it's a fun Pokemon to use, and it can lead to some very unique and dynamic gameplay. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. I stream Pokemon Go PvP nearly every day at twitch.tv/itzaxon, so if you want to see more content like this live, make sure to check me out there. Also planning on uploading a lot more YouTube videos here to this channel, so if you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Take care everyone, and goodbye.